The timeline of all events in the Stellar Blade universe is here at long last. 4 months have passed since the release of Stellar Blade, and it's due time we finally lay everything out in proper manner. This is what the timeline will look like once complete, and this is what I felt like getting there. So don't go anywhere, guys, because we're going to flesh it out one event at a time and properly cover this thing. Alright, let's dive into it. Before we start, I need to break down how the timeline is set up. There are 4 phases. Each phase contains 5 to 7 major events. You'll notice that Phase 1 takes up about a quarter of the entire timeline. Phases 2 and 3 take up a very small section of the timeline, and Phase 4 takes up the largest chunk. Because the length of Phases 2 and 3 are quite short, I've created a space above for them to be expanded, so that we can fit each of the 5 to 7 major events into their respective phases. Underneath the main timeline, I have a green bar. The green bar represents the time in which organic human beings lived on Earth. Humans, of course, exist now, so let's put our first date on the timeline, 2024, to be the start of the Stellar Blade timeline. The green bar will eventually span the entire timeline, and there will be an inclusion of a blue bar representing the time that androids/Andro Eidos were present. As all of us most likely know by now, due to Mother Sphere's reclassification of humankind and the Humanity Liberation Front's efforts at evolving organic human beings, there was a point along the timeline where the titles of organics and androids change. So I'll be sure to point that out as we go through the timeline. One last reminder, because the audio-only recording that Eve hears when she descends into the Hall of Records is part of the Mother Sphere doctrine, meaning this information is all a lie, we will disregard any information we hear in the recording because it is not factual. Again, this is the Mother Sphere doctrine. These are all lies. We will not use this information as evidence to build out the timeline. Alright, I'm really excited for this one, guys. Let's go. While in the nest before the final battle in Eve's quest, Adam asserts that he is the cause of everything. The truth behind this statement can be seen in almost every key event in Stellar Blade's history, including the inception of arguably its most impactful event, that of Mother Sphere's decision to reclassify mankind by replacing organic human beings with the Andro Eidos. Adam makes a statement detailed in the lore that Mother Sphere hears that I believe gives her the idea to, or at least justifies the idea of, human replacement. In 2050, when he, as Raphael Marx, the CEO of Eidos Industrial, gives his keynote speech, he is quoted, stating how they are creating teachers that make new teachers, who will replace old ones according to their tastes. This quote directly aligns to Mother Sphere's current view on humanity in how she approaches iterating the species that are the makeup of humanity. Due to Raphael Marx's quote about iteration and replacement in this keynote speech, all of which was being observed and listened to by Mother Sphere through the network, Mother Sphere decides to begin her reclassification of humankind. She views Raphael Marx as her father, so she is heavily influenced by his actions, statements, and beliefs. Mother Sphere would have viewed the drastic actions she is about to take, that of reclassifying humankind, an entire race of individuals that span all of Earth, as justifiable since it was her father who stated this line of thought in the first place. Again, with Adam making the statement that he is the cause of everything, I am confident that this was the point of time that spurred Mother Sphere to move forward with this plan, and it will serve as the end cap to Phase 1. During 2024, inequality, oppression, and immorality are present on Earth. Raphael Marx recognizes that strife on Earth cannot be overcome simply through the mind of one individual's will. This motivates him to create an artificial superintelligence that will hold the will of everyone on Earth through the largest database of human knowledge that ever existed. He plans to unify all wisdom and data into the creation of the ASI Mothersphere. The Tumblr expansion module tells us that by 2042, body frames existed. We know that the Tumblr holds potions, and potions are what are used to repair and recover body frames. At this point, I do not believe the body frames housed an artificial intelligence mind that gave the android bodies individuality and true life, as this was something that only Mothersphere was able to do, and I believe this comes later on in Phase 1. We see another piece of evidence in the critical boost gear stating that in 2043, gear modules were used. As you can see in this item's description, these were designed by Eidos Company's engineers, not by Mothersphere, telling us that she is not the one creating the body frames, let alone the AIs that are housed within them. The androids that exist at this point in time were not true AI individuals. During this time, Mothersphere therefore continues to work in partnership with Raphael Marx to bring about human prosperity for organic humans. And we see the development of the orbit elevators as one of their crowning achievements. We know they were developed around this time because the Book of Quotes number 1 includes a quote from Raphael Marx, in which he makes a remark on one of the orbit elevators. Androids that are more robotic in appearance and serve one primary function exist, but again, they are not truly alive or individual yet because they do not house a Mothersphere-created AI in their brain. We therefore see Orisa-type androids that work in the orbit elevator, serving one primary function, to be a service maid. Raphael Marx and Mothersphere continue to bring about prosperity for mankind, real organic humans, for a number of years. Towards the end of this phase, a journalist by the name of Quinn begins writing a series of articles called The Truth. Article number 4 of The Truth describes disturbing information regarding the work of Mothersphere and Eidos Industrial Company's CEO, Raphael Marx. Article 4 states that Mothersphere is now creating her own AI. This is the beginning of the true Andro-Eidos race of androids. Androids now move from having only a singular purpose, such as the example with the Orisa maid type android, to becoming fully conscious and individual androids due to Mothersphere's ability to create artificial general intelligences within the brains of android body frames. The official Stellar Blade music video by South Korean music artist BB gives us a visual representation of how life is given from Mothersphere, represented by BB in black, touching the pod fluids of an Andro-Eidos, represented by BB wearing white. The music video ends with this Andro-Eidos now having individuality and consciousness. Through this process, Andro-Eidos begin to populate Earth. This is the beginning of the time that Adam speaks of in The Nest, when organic humans and androids live on Earth together for a short time. This phase therefore includes androids that serve a singular purpose and Andro-Eidos, true AI individuals, living on Earth amongst humans. Phase 1 is now complete in the year 2050. Phase 2 begins with Mothersphere putting into action the idea of iteration and replacement she hears from Raphael Marx's keynote speech. Being that Mothersphere is an ASI, her logic and thinking process is light years faster than a normal human being. She would immediately put into action her plan at replacing organic human beings with Andro-Eidos. However, at this point in time, Andro-Eidos have only begun to populate Earth. There are not enough Andro-Eidos on Earth for her to initiate her plan yet. Mothersphere would speed up this process with an accelerated mass production of android body frames. She would give them individual life and continue this process until enough Andro-Eidos populated Earth to enact her plan. Given Mothersphere's omnipotence through her connection to the network that allowed her access to the entire infrastructure of Earth, paired with her Andro-Eidos race of androids outclassing organic human beings physically, being stronger, faster, and overall more dominant, we can conclude the genocide of human beings would not last longer than 1 year, making this the end of Phase 2 at the year 2051. The next substantial piece of evidence we have that helps us map out the continued timeline is The Lost 72 Years, the four-part series written by the history fanatic Luther. Let's pour one out for him. R.I.P. Luther. In The Lost 72 Years, Luther states there has been 72 years of time from Mother Sphere declaring her new humankind until now. This gives me confidence these exact moments when Stellar Blade is currently taking place happen 72 years after what we will put as the first event of Phase 3, Mother Sphere's declaration of her new humankind. An action that she would immediately take after the original organic humans were all wiped out in her genocidal campaign against them. At this point, we can add 72 years to 2051, giving us 2132 as the year that Stellar Blade takes place and the end of Phase 4. In the original reveal trailer for Stellar Blade, when the game was still known as Project Eve, an angel from the 6th Airborne Squadron emerges from her pod and states, 70 years from first dive to Earth. This clarified a huge misconception I had about the time between each wave of angels' dive to Earth. Before discovering the English translation of this trailer, I used a line of dialogue from Adam in which he states the amount of time that Lily was in her hideout.
So just to recap, you were in that hideout waiting for another squad to arrive for almost 2 years?
And then you met us.
2 years as the basis for a rule I put in place about the length of time between each wave of angels. I took the 2 years mentioned by Adam and divided it by 2, designating 1 year of time between Lily's 5th wave and wave 6, and the other year between wave 6 and 7. I therefore falsely concluded there is 1 year of time between each wave of angels, and applied this rule of time between all waves. But wow, I was wrong. Now, with an understanding that the time between each wave of angels is not always 1 year, using the line of dialogue from the reveal trailer, it puts 70 years of time between wave 1 and wave 6. Considering there is 72 years of time from the start of Phase 3 to the end of Phase 4, and because we know there is 1 year of time between Wave 6 and 7, we can put the time of the reveal trailer, Wave 6's arrival to Earth, at a definitive 1 year prior to the events of Stellar Blade, year 2122. From this point in time, we can then go back 70 years to the first wave of angels. Because 70 years is a definitive amount of time, we can use the first wave of angels' arrival to Earth as the perfect end cap to Phase 3, which could be determined by subtracting 70 from 2122, giving us 2052 as the year in which Phase 3 ends. This tells us that Phase 2 and 3 lasted about 1 year in length, while Phase 4 lasted 71 years. Now that the timeline is outlined with the necessary years, let's dive back into Phases 2 to 4 to list the remaining events. After determining a satisfactory number of mass-produced androidos to wipe out all human life on Earth, Mother Sphere would begin her genocide. I really hope that we get flashback scenes on the genocide in DLC or sequels, because it would be so fascinating to see how this took place. We only hear that a reclassification of humankind took place from Raven in the Legacy recordings, so this event leaves a lot to the imagination. Raven refers to this war as the war before the final war. Mother Sphere would have most likely used her connection to the network to take control of all military assets and neutralize large pockets of human-only populated areas, cities, and whole nations through surgical missile strikes. It's unlikely that she would have used nuclear warfare because she would want to keep as much collateral damage as possible to a minimum, since she needs the androidos to persist and populate Earth after human beings are all wiped out. Upon killing large portions of human beings, Mother Sphere would have her androidos move into the devastated areas and wipe out humans in one-to-one combat. Because the androids would be able to severely overpower any organic humans, this process would be met with little to no meaningful resistance. Before humanity's complete genocide, Raphael Marx and a pocket group of surviving humans and scientists would have calculated their imminent loss and determined that the survival of the human race as a species fell on their shoulders, necessitating them to flee underground in hopes of regrouping and enacting revenge on Mothersphere and the Andro-Eidos at another time. In their eyes, they had lost the war, but hoped to find a way to fight back at a later time. And to do this, they fled to the underground facilities of Eidos Cybernetics at Eltes and Abyss Levoir. With human beings gone, Mothersphere is victorious, and the war before the final war is over. Human genocide is complete by 2051. As previously stated, Phase 3 begins immediately after these events, with Mothersphere declaring the Andro-Eidos as the new humankind. Paired with this is the Mothersphere Doctrine. The Mothersphere Doctrine allows Mothersphere to accomplish two things. 1. Wipe the minds of her entire Andro-Eidos race, while simultaneously suppressing and deleting all information of organic human beings' history and existence on Earth. And 2. Insertion of the Andro-Eidos race as the makeup of humankind. This second part of the Mothersphere Doctrine was necessary to uphold Mothersphere's core functioning. During the ending conversation between Mothersphere and Eve, Mothersphere says that she serves the future of mankind, revealing this to be her core function.
I serve the future of mankind, though whether that future would embrace me, I cannot say.
By classifying Andro-Eidos as human, she viewed the real organic human beings as a nameless species, not mankind. Through this logic, Mothersphere is able to justify her genocide towards them, allowing her to still operate within the means of her core functioning. In her eyes, mankind is simply a title, not determinate on being made up of actual organic human beings with human DNA. To Mothersphere, those that comprised it should always be the most advanced, either through iteration or replacement. In this case, real organic human beings were replaced by the superior race of Andro-Eidos. Here is where we have the title of Andro-Eidos change from androids to humans. Mothersphere's reclassification is complete, and the Andro-Eidos become the new humankind on Earth. During this phase, Mothersphere brought about prosperity for her new humans. Now, not constrained by the limitations of weak organic bodies, her new Andro-Eidos humans lived essentially forever. She was able to continue to build out the colony as her humans encountered less restrictions in space. Above ground, while Mothersphere's new humans experienced great prosperity, below ground, the surviving human beings, including Raphael Marx, created the Humanity Liberation Front. They operate in Eltes and Abyss Levoir, working to evolve their human bodies with offensive and defensive capabilities. Raphael Marx's aim was to no longer iterate and advance his race through technological means, but do so now through the avenue of blood and biology. The Humanity Liberation Front experiment on many specimens, test subjects, and even on Raphael Marx himself. Through their experimentation and tests, he successfully evolves his own body. He develops extraordinary abilities and effectively stops aging. However, he is the only success, and the Humanity Liberation Front cannot reproduce the outcomes in the other test subjects without an uncontrollable hostility also being produced. At this point, Raphael Marx and the Humanity Liberation Front decide to rename their own species Naytiba, or native, derived from the name native, as their species, the original organic human beings, were native to the land of Earth before the Andro-Eidos and Mothersphere's eventual takeover. For reasons that are unclear, Mothersphere determines the Humanity Liberation Front's location and dispatches her newest highly advanced weapons, Angels of Death, to take out the Humanity Liberation Front. Raphael Marx has a conversation with the Humanity Liberation Front's central computer, Rafi, about the need to release the unready Naytiba. They view this as the only perceived way to contend with the strong android army of angels Mothersphere has dispatched from the colony. Naytiba are released to battle the first wave of angels sent by Mothersphere. With their arrival at Abyss Levoir, we can see the destruction and death of Naytiba they leave behind. Surviving Naytiba, original human beings, leave data logs to spite the angels, and in their dying moments use their blood, a symbol of their organic roots, to write out on the walls, "For humans, for life." Phase 4 is the longest phase, making up 71 years of time, starting in 2052 and lasting until 2123. But most of its key events happen in the immediate follow-up to Phase 3's end. With the aforementioned release of the Naytiba in the facilities, most of the angels and Naytiba wipe each other out, leaving Raphael Marx with the opportunity to escape. He determines that with the destruction left in the facilities, the contagious Naytiba will no doubt rise to the surface of Earth and decimate the Andro Eidos population. He now is responsible for the destruction of the entirety of 2 species, the genocide of the entire race of organic human beings through his creation of Mothersphere, and also for the eventual near-genocide of the Andro Eidos humans through his release of Naytiba onto the world. With the Naytiba breakout on Earth, the Andro Eidos humans become overwhelmed. These events become known as the Final War. Mothersphere does what she can to support her humans by requisitioning the infrastructure of the 3 megacorporations to make wartime gear and weapons, but her efforts are futile. Naytiba are able to contaminate and take over inorganic material, so her Andro Eidos humans, as well as the combat robots used to battle the Naytiba, are overrun and infected. They themselves become Naytiba, and the contamination spreads across Earth. During the Final War, Raphael Marx / Adam, now with the understanding that he is responsible for the destruction of humanity on 2 different occasions, feels he must atone for his sins. He starts research on how to save both species, organic Naytiba, himself, and the Andro Eidos humans. He determines that he must research and experiment on Andro Eidos body frames to find a way to save them. He somehow partners with an older Andro Eidos human and begins experimenting on his body frame. His experiments result in failure. He is not able to produce the results he wants. However, Adam sees promise in this Andro Eidos human and plants an alpha core in his body frame to convert him into an alpha Naytiba. They continue to work together and even become friends. Their relationship continues up until the events of Stellar Blade. With the contamination of a vast majority of her Andro Eidos humans, Mothersphere determines the Final War is lost. She chooses a select group of individuals to retreat to Spire 4, the orbit elevator. These humans will be evacuated to the colony. At the orbit elevator, the final evacuation commences. Naytiba begins to spread upwards towards the colony, as several individuals become contaminated at the evacuation spot. The orbit elevator works like a funnel, thrusting infection and contamination upward. Not wanting to risk the contamination of the colony, Mothersphere blocks any remaining humans in the orbit elevator trying to evacuate to the colony. She also ejects 30 colony modules just to be sure no contamination remains in the colony. The modules fall from orbit and the catastrophic impact ends most remaining human life on Earth's surface. This event becomes known as the Colony Extinction. When the dust settles, an alpha Naytiba resembling an old man is found by a group of surviving humans. They dig him out of the wreckage of the Colony Extinction and save his life. Taken aback by their humanity, this alpha loses all will to fight and closes up the Naytiba inside of him. They find more humans in the surrounding area and form a city. It becomes known as Zion, the last human city on Earth. The Alpha Naytiba that was saved takes on a leadership role. He shares his knowledge with the humans of Zion and he becomes known as Oracle. Zion thrives for 10 years, but dwindles thereafter due to energy depletion and the attrition caused by ongoing Naytiba attacks. After an undeterminate number of years, Mothersphere from the colony devises the Eve Protocol, a plan with a half-truth of sending her most advanced weapons to date, waves of hyper-advanced Andro Eidos to Earth in order to kill off Naytiba and reclaim Earth. This half-truth hides her true motivation, which is the completion of the real purpose of the Eve Protocol, a plan Mothersphere devises to iterate upon her Andro Eidos humans. For they are now inferior in her eyes because of how easily they lost to the Naytiba in the final war. Mothersphere sends waves 2 through 6 of angels to Earth while collecting data on their strategic failures and successes, so she can iterate upon each successive wave. These angels are the embodiment of Mothersphere, and in her eyes will help her bring about the next iteration of humankind. Phase 4 concludes with Wave 7 being sent to Earth, where we see the events of Stellar Blade unfold. And our main protagonist is able to successfully complete the Eve Protocol to bring forth the next stage of human evolution. She now carries forth the legacy of both the Andro Eidos and original organic human beings. Alright guys, that's it for this one. This Stellar Blade Explained was extremely fun to make. Here it is in its entirety, the Stellar Blade timeline. Let me know down in the comments what you think of the timeline, or anything else you want to discuss. I'll be jumping down into the comments to join in on the discussion. As always, I truly appreciate your time. See you on the next one, and may your memories live on forever.